Hey, welcome to Integrated Preparedness. I am Steve Smith. How are you all tonight? Welcome to all the new people. I forget sometimes to say that, but welcome to everybody who's both new on YouTube and over on Patreon. I want to send out a special thanks to everybody who's come up to the Stonemont level over on Patreon. If you're not on Patreon with us yet, no pressure, but I wish you would be, because we have so much more stuff over there I think you'd enjoy and get a lot from. And the link is down below here, right there where it shows how to get my books, and we might talk about that later, but that's not the point of this. I want to talk about people, groups, and communities, and the importance of those, and the importance of good ones. You know, last week we were all being told that something was going to happen on Saturday the 24th, that everybody would remember where they were, you know, and there were a lot of people pushing it, and there were other people saying no, it had been some German guy had misspoken. I had not heard any of it prior to last week, and so when I put mine up, I had no idea, you know, what most of the world was talking about. But you know, if you're prepared, we're always prepared. But I know. Now, I may not always remember for the rest of my life, but I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing on the 24th and the 25th. And I want to talk about that. You know, preparedness, like anything, to be honest, is about relationships. The idea, and many have said this before me, and I'm not, you know, this is nothing original, the idea of the so-called lone wolf prepper, the one who's going to go out into the woods or into the mountains or whatever and make it on his own, Jeremiah Johnson style. There are a few who could do that. Many more could do it that want to do it, to be honest, because, you know, for the most part, people are a communal animal. We like to be around other people. Now, I know that there's going to be a couple of comments on here about how, you know, I don't like people. I just don't like people. I haven't been able to find anybody that I like and all that. Let me tell you something. I used to feel that way. And I used to tell people that I like horses better than people, and all the reasons that I could give you why I liked horses better than people. But you know what? That's because of the kind of people that I was running into. And that's the kind of people that I was around all the time. And thankfully, my life changed. Let me tell you about the last few days and how this applies to preparedness and the importance of relationships with good people. And I know this is not going to get, you know, a lot of views because it's about good stuff, right? I put up a couple videos in the last couple of days that I shot up in Jamesport, Missouri. One about an unbelievable family business that this young 17-year-old girl had started with her sister-in-law, Cattle Cookies. And if you haven't seen that one, it's a couple of videos back. Go watch it. This is an amazing family. And then I also did one on a business up in Jamesport, the Farmhouse Collections. Built and run by a family. Those were amazing stories, amazingly positive stories. So naturally they didn't get many views, and that's too bad, and it has nothing to do. I don't care about me getting views, to be honest with those. It's too bad because it could have done so much for the people who didn't watch. So I'm hoping that, you know, if you're in that area right now going, I don't know, man, this sounds pretty boring, I hope you will watch, because this is so much more important than somebody screaming that the world is ending next week and nukes are incoming and the whole system is falling apart. And, hey, the whole system is falling apart, but, you know, it's a slow fall. And how you survive is going to have everything to do with the people you have around you. Okay. So let me recap a couple of things. I've told people when they've asked, I can't figure out how to make any money. I said, look, I can't make it down the steps in the morning without thinking of a new way to make money. Oh, did you all notice my new shirt here? I don't know if I'm slouching. You see that? I'm going to get back to this in just a minute and tell you about this. And no, I didn't make it. It wasn't me. It was somebody else. But it's about good people and relationships. And so, like I said, I can't make it down the steps in the morning without some new idea how to make money come to mind. I can't do any of them because I'm already too busy. The same thing is, I've told people before, the world is full of people. It's full of asshats, and it's also full of good people. And if you haven't found the good folks, you're not putting yourself out there. You're not putting yourself in the right places, and you're not looking, and you're not open. Okay, so I want to talk about that. So Friday night, and I think I mentioned this before, we were setting up Kelly's soap booth up at the Jamesport Heritage Festival, and a guy walked up, and I've talked about him before, asked me who I was. Turns out he's a viewer. His name is John. His wife Rena had a booth there, and we got to talking through the weekend and got to know each other a little bit. Turns out that they are down from a part of Missouri where we have some land. They're pretty close by. Rena is from South Africa, and I think she was a little surprised to run into somebody over here who knew a bit about what had happened in South Africa. John lived over there in South Africa. He's from around here. He's from Olathe, Kansas, but he spent a couple of years over there living in South Africa before they decided to vamoose and come back here. And I asked Rena if she would have any interest, or if she would sit down with me and let me talk with her and interview her a little bit about her experiences in South Africa. And because it relates to what's going on in our country right now. So hopefully they're going to come up this next weekend and come over to the house and sit down, and we'll have a cup of coffee or something, and we'll make a video, and you all will get to hear from Rena and maybe John. I don't think he's the kind that wants to get on the camera very much, but maybe you will, maybe you won't. But you'll get to hear some of that, and I think that it's going to be important for you to hear. That's for the guy that can't stand me drinking coffee. Let me do another one for you to get you out of here. Now the rest of us will stay here. It's one thing to watch this stuff on YouTube, but to be able to, or the news, but to be able to talk to somebody like that in person, I'm really looking forward to doing it and to putting it up here for you all to hear. Well, the next day, I'm walking around, and I'm walking through the vendors and the stairs. You know how it is, one of these fall festivals things, and this guy, I hear him say, Steve Smith. And I turn around, and here is this mountain of a man, a mountain of a guy, looking at me. And I'm thinking, yeah. I says, yeah? He says, I came here to find you. And I said, and I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, this guy'd be more than a day's work. I look up at him, and I don't have to look up at many people, but I was looking up at him and go, well, I hope this is good. I says, well, is that good or bad? And he kind of looked back, and he said, well, you've said that you can size people up real quick, so what do you think? And I saw the glint in his eye, and I said, yeah, you're all right. Well, we shook hands, and his name was Justin, and he'd come down there with his wife to come down to see if he could buy some of my books. I didn't take any with me because I don't go to those things to sell books, but we got to talking and had a nice time, and he came over to the booth and met Kelly, and so now I feel, and I didn't get to meet his wife. I wished I had, but she was off shopping, doing some shopping. And so now I know a good guy could tell. You can tell. When you have the more experience you have with people, the quicker you can make a decision, right? So I was happy to make his acquaintance. and maybe we'll see each other again. Later on that day, I stopped by the booth of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and I started talking to them. And some of you don't know that in my books, I write a great deal about the truth of that war that some mistakenly call the Civil War. Okay, well, I for another channel, and I've put my interview with the guys. The main guy there was Lanny, and we got to talking. I said, Lanny, so many people don't understand the truth of the South, of the Confederacy, of secession, of all of this. I'd like to interview you and do for one of our channels, and let you explain, because people have heard me, and in my books I've talked a great deal about the truth, and when people hear the truth that they've never heard before, they can't believe it. They can't believe how they've been lied to, and how this lie about that war, which he refers to as the war for Southern independence. Other people refer to it as the war of Northern aggression, and it really was. It wasn't even that. It was an invasion. I won't get into the details here. You can hear more about it over on American Reversion, or you can read my books. But anyway, I spent a good deal talking to Lanny and those guys down there. What a great bunch of guys. It's a great organization. The Sons of Confederate Veterans raises money to put markers on the graves of Confederate soldiers. And the camp that was up here in Gallatin, Missouri, they put them around this area. There was a lot of battles around here. Of course, everybody, well, not everybody, a lot of people have heard of Bleeding Kansas. And really, that war started here, and the border wars of Missouri and Kansas in probably 1855, a good 5-6 years before it broke out into the east. And what Lanny told me something that I didn't know, and that was that Missouri has the third most Civil War battles of any state, and I wasn't aware of that. And it was behind Virginia and Tennessee. Now there weren't big battles. These weren't Shiloh and Antietam and Gettysburg and all that. To where there was thousands of guys, and you can hear him talk about it if you'd like to go over that to the American Reversion channel. But they were 50 to 100 guys. A lot of guerrilla activity around here. Jesse James, Quantrill's Raiders, Bloody Bill Anderson, the Redlegs, and the Jayhawkers that raided into Missouri. Very interesting. This whole area was really the Western Front of the Civil War, fighting the Civil War. And I use that term, even though I don't usually use it, because it's more easily understood by people, for a long time before it started back east. So we made good friends there, and I intend to keep in touch with them. Now, the next day, I should add too, I learned that John and Rena, who live close to our land down in the Ozarks, they found out that We Home Church, or John found out that We Home Church. We had a long conversation about churches, about God, about everything, and our beliefs, which are very, very much alike. And when you find somebody who has similar beliefs, strong bedrock foundational beliefs, that's extremely important. Well, they have found a church of their own down there, but they homeschool with another family, and they bought the building of a church they used to go to. It was a Methodist church, and it closed down because not enough people went to church, and they bought that building, and they homeschool there. This ties up with something else. Now, we don't currently homeschool, but we have. Yesterday, which is the next day after I met Justin and talked half the day with John, we went down to Spring Hill, Kansas, to see a couple of people. One of our subscribers here, who I've mentioned before, Mike and Jennifer, I won't give their last names, they had come to our booth, the Kelly's Soap booth, at the old Latha Old Settlers Days. Takes me a minute to remember that. Old Settlers Days. They stopped by and they bought some soap, and we said, well, we're going to go down there. We want to go down and see them. They had a booth set up at the Fall Festival in Spring Hill. So we said, well, we want to go down there and see them and give them a little business. And not give them the business, but, give them some business. And see them, because they're just nice folks. They're just outstanding folks. They homeschool. They have 4 kids. 4 or 5? I think it's 4. I'm counting in my head. I think it's 4. And these are the brightest, nicest kids you've ever seen in your life. Not surprising, because Mike and Jennifer are some of the nicest people you've ever met in your life. But these kids, if there needed to be an argument for homeschooling and against this idea that homeschool kids aren't socialized and don't get the same education, these kids will be in the front row proving that thing wrong. They are just the most sociable, most polite. I'll just say it was a pleasure to be there during the time that we visited with them. Well, as soon as we walked up to their tent and they saw us, and they said, well, hello. And I took them something too. And they immediately brought something out. I'm sorry, Mike, I was thinking about John. Mike gave me this shirt that they had made. Isn't that beautiful? Can you all see that? Integrative preparedness and embroidery. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. I love the shirt too. And then they brought, and it was all wrapped up in a nice bow. and then Jennifer brought this out, and she gave it to Kelly, but she had embroidered that. You see it says Kelly's Kitchen. And that is now hanging on our oven in our kitchen. And if that's not beautiful, that is really something. But the real beauty of this is the when you look at this, you think about the thoughts of the people who did it and what they were thinking, and they were thinking about us, and we think about them. I could go on. And then on the way back, I got a call from a dear friend of ours. Doesn't matter what we talked about, but he had started off as a customer of ours. And he and his wife and his 2 boys are just some of the most excellent people you would ever meet. What's my point? Is my point just to say I'll talk about these great people that I met? And you throw onto that the people from the cattle cookies, and the people from the farmhouse collections. Here's my point. Quality people are everywhere. They are in the small towns. They are in the suburbs. They are in the cities. And these are the people that when you're out there doing things, and you open yourself, you put yourself out there, and you really want to know people, learn about people, share your beliefs, listen to theirs. Not to where you're giving a speech about one thing, or not to where you're just trying to, smooth up to somebody else. But when you open yourself to real communications between people, you learn a lot about them. And when you learn a lot about them, you get to see you get to discover the people who are very much like you. And the more you do it, the more people like that you find. It's not a secret. It's not. I used to be one of the most antisocial people you can imagine. And it's simply because I dealt with nothing but dirtbags. Dirtbags on one side and corrupt, authoritarian little asshats on the other. And there were some good people in there too, but it wasn't like today. But because I was exposed mainly, and I had gotten that tunnel vision that I don't like people, guess how many good people I knew, and guess how many good relationships I had. How about none? When your life changes and you realize that life is a reflection of you. Your life is a reflection of how you think about it. And when you finally open yourself up and say, you know what, I want to make my life a higher quality life, that's when you can get started. Now, these people don't live close to us. They live close to places that we go. So guess what? If they're traveling through here and their car breaks down, or if they just wanted to, give us a buzz and say, hey, meet us for lunch as we're going through town, they got it. And if we're going in their area, guess what? We know them. And a group or a community does not have to be the people in your cul-de-sac or on your road or in your church or at your work, or the people that you've brought together in a mag or a group or whatever like that. That your contacts, your circles of friends and then acquaintances and then contacts and all that. I refer to ours as simply a circle of friends. And then beyond that is that next rung, and that next rung, and that next rung, and that next rung. And it's just like a pebble in a pond. You throw a little pebble, you get a couple of ripples. But if you throw yourself out there like a big rock, well, you are going to get some ripples and some circles that go way out. And it'll touch a lot more, and it'll let you make contact with a lot more things. And those are important. People think that my books, let me reach over here for a second. People think that my books are about preparedness and survival and everything like that. And they are. They're about that and many other things. Justice and how things ought to be, and foundational principles. But at the core of them, it's about community. It's about family and community under the guidance and blessing of God. Simple as that. I even refer to the people in here. There is a group of people that I call the central core. And at the core of this series, is community. Because that's what's so important. That's what built civilization. Strong families make strong communities. And then however bigger you want to get from that, I'll leave that to other people to discuss. I'm kind of discussing that in the 6th book that I'm talking about right now. That's what it's about. But if you want it, it's the old saying, if you want a friend, be a friend. Put yourself out there. I hope that somebody out there who thinks, well, I don't like people, I can't make friends, I can't do... I hope you hear me. Because you got to put yourself out there. And you have to be willing to talk with people and be real and be yourself. And learn about other people, It's not all about telling people what you are, it's about being interested in what they are. And you'd be surprised if you will work as hard at that as you do at other things. You might be surprised that pretty soon, I don't know when pretty soon is, pretty soon all of a sudden you are developing and see that you have some quality relationships. The kind that'll see you through when times get hard, and that's what's important. So again, about community, I don't know if I mentioned that if you haven't read my books, how you get them, the links are down below on how to order them through Amazon. It's the Stonemont series, or how to get them from me. And from Amazon, you can get them in paperback, or you can get them Kindle. From me, you get paperback. You can get them autographed. Both ways are down there. If you're not with us over on Patreon, I invite you to come on over. I think there's stuff over there that you'd get a lot out of. And for those of you who have come up to the Stonemont level, special thanks for your all support and your great questions. I'm getting so many great questions from you all that I'm able either to get back to individually, or sometimes I make a video out of them and things like that, and it just works out so well for everybody. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to go in and have dinner. But you all have a good night. Remember, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And so much of our preparations, it's not just the rice and beans and way to protect them and water and food and all that. It's people. It's people. People are important. And finding the right people is up to you. And I won't say, hey, pray about it. Ask God. Direct me to the right people. Bring the right people to me. He'll help you, but you got to do your part too. Okay? All right. You all have a good night, and I'm sure I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.